Divine Leader. Welcome to this episode, The Courage to Follow Your Higher Self Guidance, my semi-sabbatical personal story. As we're kicking off this episode, I want to begin with a shout out. A shout out to you, a shout out to our clients at Divine Transmissions for really following your higher self guidance more and more and more, divine guidance more and more and more. If I was to really synthesize and pinpoint and get to the essence of my 7-figure spiritual leader success, I would definitely have to say it is because I have been leading a divinely guided life, a higher self-guided life for a long time. And I am continually amazed by the level of higher self-guidance that I see our clients really leaning into. So I wanted to begin with that because I live this way. I have been living this way for some decades. And I am continually really deeply inspired by what I'm seeing in our clients and the willingness to follow that higher self guidance, the inner authority, the inner sovereignty, the inner discernment, especially and not only especially, yet especially when it seems to be outside of what is expected of us as women in society, as healers, as business owners, whatever your different um categories that you hang out in are. And this skill is so much a part of the new paradigm. It's so much about really some of the ways of navigating this larger evolution in consciousness. So to me, it's no longer, of course, it's always in alignment with our free will and conscious choice, but it's no longer like, oh, I'm going to dip my toes into following my higher guidance and developing that skill set um, when I feel like it or when it's not too scary. It's really feeling like the operating system, the new operating system of the new paradigm is that we are connected to our higher self, to our inner authority, our divine self, whatever you want to call it. And we have the courage, always a choice. Yeah, also the courage to follow it, because it's one thing to receive guidance, and then it's a second thing to choose it and to implement it, to follow it. So, to our Divine Transmissions clients, to those of you tuning in here in this podcast, I want to start this episode with celebrating you, with acknowledging you, with letting you know that I'm deeply inspired by you and your following your highest path fuels me in following my highest path. And it's it's uh it's it's really a circulation of energy. And I know that when I share as well and I model how it is that I'm living as this spiritual leader, that it also inspires you. And that's such a beautiful thing, that we get to uplift one another, that we get to really be like the, oh my gosh, like this will happen to me. I'll be hiking or I'll be unloading the dishwasher or teaching a class or whatever it is. And some of our clients will come into my mind. I'll just be like, oh my gosh, that is so incredible and crazy cool. And I feel so inspired and so juiced up. And I do make it a practice as often as I can to share that with our clients, to say that, to say, wow, you're not only really stepping into the next ascension spiral of your journey, of your leadership, of your contribution, and having the ripple effect in a wider way. Yeah, you're also really deeply, deeply, deeply inspiring me. And I just, as we're talking about this, I just want to do a little um, snapshot or crop or like another bubble within this, like go into another breakout room, so to speak, of this podcast, that really, as I'm sharing this and I'm appreciating, I'm acknowledging, and I'm recognizing the circulation, the giving, the having, and receiving between myself and our clients and the community, and the larger community, which you're a part of here in this now moment. That's really based on also a lot of now moments partnering with the guides and the advanced spiritual work that I've done and our clients have done with mentoring with ascended masters, which the step zero is that coming from a place of equality, from a place of equanimity, peer to peer, divine to divine, light being to light being. And it is a game changer. It's a revolution. It acknowledges what's always been there, yet in a way that's even more forward facing. And so if that's perking up your ears and you want to dive in right away to that and to receiving the activation for that, we have that available on our website. It's the Visionary Heart activation, which is the first divine light activation of the full 24 divine light activation sequence, which is all about an evolutionary sequence and really embodying your light being incarnate self, your highest current new paradigm mission. Because I don't care how long you've been on the path, you may be just starting your business, or you may be a mom and that's how you share your contribution, or you may be someone like me that's been an entrepreneur for 25 years and be making phenomenal money and having a global impact and all those things. I don't care where you're on your path, there's always an upgrade to your current contribution, and your new paradigm mission is it's a new paradigm. So this is also new paradigm living, and higher self, following the guidance of your higher self is one of the ways that we are living in the new paradigm. So that brings me to my personal story of my semi-sabbatical. And you've probably been aware, and I know I've shared it before on the podcast and other places, that some of the episodes are about like how to move from burnout to brilliant, how to be burnout at six figures out of your zone of genius, or aspiring to six figures, to how to really be in radiant energy at even higher levels of impact and income. And those topics are directly coming from my personal experience, and also what I see in the transformational space, and what is very much also a part of survival consciousness. So I remember I was in a high level business coaching program, because I always love to have mentors. I think that would probably be my number two secret uh, magic or secret sauce to really the success that I have, is that I lead a divinely guided life, and also that I mentor not only with the guides in the physical plane. And I do feel like source and the guides are my primary mentors, yet also mentors in physical form, bipedals, coaches. And so I remember I was in a coaching session, and my whole system was just getting more and more frustrated, and I was really close to tears. And my beautiful, magnificent coach at the time was holding space and asking questions and exploring. And one of the amazing things about coaching is that it can often be about what is it that you're creating? What's the next project? What's the next book? What's the vision that you hold? What's kind of like what's the next thing? And my experience of coaching is that it often creates some to-dos, like some what the guides call to joys, some action steps. So there's some clarity in the coaching, and then there's an implementing in the coaching. And I noticed, like in the however many months when I was really at this height of being physically drained, of being in a burnout, and the Magdalens were really also assisting me in rewiring my system and embracing more of that feminine energy. And so the coaching was like going in the direction. What do you want to create? What's the outcome you want to create? Where is it that you're headed? What are we coaching about? And I was like, there's just this part of my system that was like, if I was financially free, I would go on sabbatical. And with this, like with tears in my eyes and like frustration in my system and this whole kind of no energy, this like stop energy. And it felt so well, half of it felt resonant because the if I was financially free is part of the illusion lie. Because of course there is more than enough money for me to slow down in the business, to take time off. So that kind of conditionality, I wouldn't say was divine truth. I would say that was um, the way that the part of me that has just been on path and of service and all in my business for so long was opening the window to the idea of taking a sabbatical. And so it simultaneously felt like divine truth. And then there was this other part of me that felt really sad about that. It felt that I was feeling really like it was just bringing up this kind of surprise energy and sadness energy, and there was a lot of overlays to that. Like, what does that mean? And I've been so purpose driven for so long, so mission oriented. Who am I if I'm not so focused on the mission? And does that mean that I failed? And uh, yeah, that somehow it's going backwards, or all of those different kind of overlays around it. And yeah, it was really crystal clear that that was the project. Since I love a project, we're here from my perspective to create in the physical plane. Divine Transmissions is all about spiritual leadership and evolving our consciousness, and also how that shows up in our daily life, how we create in the physical plane as multi-dimensional beings. And so I love a project. And so it really was my true answer in the coaching of, okay, my next project is really kind of recovery mode and get out of burnout for sure. And I'm out of it now. So I'm talking about this like after the fact, and this semi-sabbatical energy. And it did take some months and some wrapping up some projects and some deeper exploration and the courage to really follow that semi-sabbatical energy, the semi-sabbatical. And to me, it felt aligned rather than complete sabbatical. There was more semi-sabbatical. It was more continuing to be contributing to clients, to be yet just scale back. And at the time of this recording, so it's summertime, and I've also kind of had that semi-sabbatical energy in the podcast where I'm moving from 3 podcasts a month to once a month. And that semi-sabbatical really has felt aligned, and has been giving me so much space, as well as we're preparing for our hike of the another part of the Camino for 3 weeks, and continuing to keep the energy going. That actually felt more generative to my system, and the higher self guidance was more like, oh yeah, that's actually going to fuel you more than if you just stop, if you go from 100 to 0. And so I'm sharing all of this to really highlight that there are different stages in our higher self guidance, and then implementing it can also be graceful. It can also be planned in a way, or there can be containers set in place where there's structures to support that higher self guidance. There's the space to support that higher self guidance, and there's the courage to it. So I was in preparation for this podcast, I was looking up the definition of sabbatical. And it's really a term that comes from universities. And the definition was something like taking a year to study or travel. And that the sabbatical is often happens after a 7-year working cycle. And so, and that the university, that it's a paid time. It's a paid sabbatical. Now, that's in a university structure. Of course, I'm the CEO of my own company, and I choose to continue to be paid on sabbatical. And there are things in the business that have already been in place that's the fact. Yet the part that really got me contemplating on a deeper level, there was a lot of things, was that a sabbatical is for study, and a sabbatical is for travel, and the second thing is that it happens every 7 years. So I started my business, or being an entrepreneur, in 1993. The time of this recording, it's 2022, and so what is that? 29 years. And so that would have been, let's say, 4 years of sabbatical. I'm doing this in my head. So if I maths off, you get the point. So that would have been like 4 years of sabbatical if I was following that. Now, I do want to really celebrate that I have been somebody who has always had travel as a part of my path, and vacations, and study, that I have an ongoing practice of study, of spiritual growth, of evolution, of taking programs. Of course, there's a direct study that I have with Source, and the multidimensionality of it, that as I'm downloading books and programs and offering them to those that I have a divine appointment with, that's also a form of study or evolution. And that travel has been a part. My beloved Friedemann is from Europe, and And so a long time we would always go and see his family while they were still incarnated on the earth plane, and we co-lead journeys to Egypt and France, and we would always add on also some travel for us. And really those two aspects, study and travel, are, again, like I feel like a way of life and something that is very high up for me when I talk about my multidimensional abundance temple. And that's something that we focus on in the Magdalene Codes of Love. It's like, what really is your multidimensional abundance temple? What is abundance to you? What is wealth to you? What is richness to you? And growing, expanding. And I know that if you're here, these may be, and most likely are, really high up for you as well. And that study is like opening up to new ideas, and there's so much I could say about this. Yet the undercurrent of the idea of the sabbatical and it being paid by the university is that this sabbatical is actually of service to the next 7-year cycle when the university professor comes back. And that's a completely different way of thinking than my initial response to the higher self guidance of going on sabbatical, which is, well, can I do that? Is that selfish? Does it mean that I've failed, or that there's something wrong with me, or that my business is going to dry up, or whatever the illusion lies are that came up for me and that may come up for you as well when you receive some kind of higher self guidance. And it also can come up as well when we when we step into a program. And I've had this happen for me, and I see it with our clients as well, is that there's that choice to study, to expand our consciousness, to hire a mentor, to step into divine light activation or Magdalene codes or our Scribe Your Book with Source program. And there's a financial investment, there's a time investment, and it's also investing in changing. And the part of us that wants to keep us the same goes, am I safe? Or that there might be that moment of, after following the higher self guidance, of like, ooh, is this okay? Am I going to be okay? Is this safe? Was this a good decision? Did I do my pros and cons list? Like, there can be the reverting into the old operating system. And so this recognition of having a commitment to our spiritual evolution is directly tied to our divine service. And when we're following our higher self guidance, and when we are really providing opportunities for ourselves to expand, then that's a greater service to others. It's a part of the contribution. And that has really been, as I've been on semi-sabbatical now for some months, and this whole thing really unfolded. I want to also say, after during the 2020 period, where I wasn't traveling as much and I was growing, and there was amazing things that happened between 2020 and 2022, where there was really the bringing forth of the Magdalene codes, and there was a lot of inner shifting that happening. Yet there was less travel, there was less of that in person. Like during that time, I stopped leading in-person retreats, and so there was a part of my system, we weren't going on vacations as much, we weren't seeing other people as much during that, and that was true for most of us. And so that, like, lifeline in my system was also part of the burnout. And so there's that really reframing the resting energy, the rebooting energy, the personal growth or spiritual growth, the study, the travel, to not only be for us personally and how much it feeds us, yet also very much tied into our contribution, tied into our mission, tied into our divine service, and tied into the next cycle of what it is that we're up to. And that is such a beautiful, 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 beautiful thing. And so as we're unpacking this idea of sabbatical, and and maybe this, you're here because your higher self has guided you here, and there has been some form of burnout, there's been some form of higher self guidance that you haven't had the courage to follow, that this idea of adding in more study, more personal growth, more spiritual growth, more mentorship, and not necessarily more, yet really what's aligned, and also more travel. And travel can mean a lot of things. It's that kind of vacation mind or that travel mind where you may notice that when you travel somewhere, that at least for me, and I see it with our clients when we go to Egypt or we go to France or we go to Sedona or we go somewhere together, there's like a complete openness that happens. There's the tunnel vision of our everyday lives that can happen. And then there's this opening where we're open to the synchronicities, we're paying attention, we're open to connecting with others. There's a there's a there's a whole nother level that starts to happen. So that travel energy, it and study, it's not that they're taken literally, although they may be. However, they're multidimensional, and there's the energy or the essence of how those, and space and time, how those really fill our cauldron again. They surplus us, they assist us in another cycle. And that's also such an important part of the ascension, descension, ascension spiral. And 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 so that integrating what's gone before, having the space and the energy of a new creative wave, so that we're creating from that uh, curiosity and that exploration and that overflow. And part of during this semi-sabbatical, there's also been some really deep waves for me. It was interesting that I found myself in bed for a few days with a little head congestion, cold, and and it had been more than 2 years that my body had had any kind of adaptation sensations or physical slower vibrations. And during that time in bed, and I didn't really feel that bad, but it was just really clear, okay, be in a horizontal position, rest, relax, be in bed. It was like a little sabbatical within a larger context. And during that time, there was conversation with the guides and downloads that were happening and integration, and the inspiration for our life review ceremony and manifestation workshop, which is also available on the website, which in a way provides in a condensed ceremony or environment or form as well the essence of sabbatical, which is integration, and then in some ways, clarity of what's next. And so one of the pitfalls that I find with this focus on ascension, 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 ascension is that it skips the descension spiral. It skips the embodiment piece, the integration piece, the becoming piece. And when we bulldoze our higher self guidance, or we chicken out. And again, I am a proponent of following higher self guidance in a way that feels like there's surplus, or there's overflow, or there's expansion, where sometimes maybe we receive guidance, like I didn't implement the guidance right away. We prepare for it so that while we're following it the whole time, we're not in fight or flight. So you may be receiving higher self guidance to leave your job, for example, and start your business, and write a book, or create a new modality, and that may even be with me in the guides. And yet, rather than just like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to go quit my job, there's a preparation, there's a putting a date on it when that might happen. There's also creating the container so that the sabbatical or the higher self guidance is really uh, the purpose of it can really be accessed. And that's a very key component. And so the integration is a part of, as well, following our higher self guidance. And some of our higher self guidance, like what I've been getting, and the wave with the Magdalens, which is to move into more states of being. And I've added more time in other activities, and my work days have been more concentrated or condensed. That a part of that is also to have the space for integration. And you can integrate while you're in action. Those two things are not mutually exclusive, because I know for some of you, you have kids and you have your schedule, and that's the way that it is. It's not like, for me as an entrepreneur, I can choose, am I working 3 days a week? Am I working 3 weeks a month? Am I working 3 hours a day? Am I working 100 hours a week? Like I can choose some of those things. So as we're wrapping up here, I would really invite you to recognize that at times when your higher self guidance is along the lines of slow down, that there are some short things that you can do that may include adding in some study, some personal growth, some spiritual evolution, some support, some mentorship, and also that travel. And travel can be a long trip, but it can also be an afternoon in the woods, and have that same energy, or going to a museum if that's what you like. That there's a vacating of what it is that you are usually up to. So I'm sending you blessings and courage to receive your higher self guidance, and then the choice to follow it, and then the courage as well to follow it, and also the courage to say no and to renegotiate it, because that's also what I did. I got it, the guidance, and yet I didn't implement it right away. There was a setting up of the stage, and the universities do that as well. There's not like okay, the professor is going to go on sabbatical without there being a plan of what's happening with the classes. Who is somebody taking them over? Those kinds of physical plane logistics. So really patting yourself on the back for the higher self guidance that you're already following, and the the extraordinary moment that we just shared together, which also has incorporated, in a way, a travel from your daily life and this study, this spiritual evolution by tuning in here. So if you're enjoying this podcast, I would really love for you to leave us a review. To leave us a review. And if you know anybody who might be vibing with what we're laying down here, to just share this with them. You may think of somebody who say, wow, they've been thinking about a sabbatical, and maybe listening to this podcast would really be a contribution to them. Okay. Well, sending much love and appreciation. Bye for now.